Welcome to the Crime Report, where we delve into the darkest corners of real-life mysteries. From unsolved murders to shocking criminal conspiracies, we explore the stories that shook the world. Each episode, we take you step by step through the investigation, uncovering the truth behind the headlines and the secrets that still remain hidden. If you're a fan of crime stories, stay tuned and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Get ready, because we're about to uncover a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The disappearance of Isabelle. It was a cold, rainy November evening when Isabelle, a young 26-year-old teacher, finished her last class of the day. The school was eerily quiet, the halls echoing with the absence of voices. She was always punctual and dedicated, but tonight something felt different. Her thoughts were distracted, as if the air itself was filled with an uneasy tension. The rain was tapping against the windows, and the outside world had been swallowed by darkness. Isabelle packed her bag and was about to leave when an unfamiliar feeling washed over her. She glanced through the window of the teacher's lounge, seeing the empty streets below. The streetlights offered little illumination, and the rain fell in heavy torrents. It was 10 p.m., and although she had walked this route home 1,000 times, something felt off this evening, like the city itself was holding its breath. She slung her bag over her shoulder and closed the door behind her. The street she walked down was dim and deserted. The streetlights cast faint glows, and the trees along the sidewalk swayed eerily in the wind. As she quickened her pace, she heard footsteps behind her. At first, she thought it was just her imagination, but the sounds grew louder, closer. Her heart raced, and her breath quickened. She turned over her shoulder, but there was no one in sight. The street was empty. Still, the sensation of being followed didn't leave her. It grew stronger as she turned down the alley that led to her apartment. She heard the footsteps again, this time directly behind her. She spun around abruptly, but again, no one was there. It was so quiet now that even her own breathing seemed to echo in the stillness. She quickened her pace, but the footsteps continued to follow, growing louder and closer. When she reached the end of the alley, she turned again, her heart in her throat. She felt a cold hand touch her shoulder, but when she whipped around, no one was there. A shiver ran down her spine as she ran the last stretch to her apartment, slamming the door behind her. But the fear that had gripped her lingered. The shadows in her apartment seemed deeper, the silence more unnatural. She locked the windows and curtains, but the sense of being watched wouldn't leave. She couldn't sleep that night, her mind racing with the feeling of someone following her. The next morning, when her friends and colleagues tried to contact her, no one could reach her. Isabelle had vanished. It was as though she had disappeared into thin air. Her bag was found later in the alley where she had walked the previous evening, but there were no other clues. Her apartment was empty. Her phone was switched off, and her bank account hadn't been touched. Everything she had was gone without a trace. The police immediately began searching, but all they found was emptiness. Her parents, her friends, her colleagues, all were left with nothing but questions. It was as if Isabelle had evaporated, leaving no trace behind. The case caught the attention of the media, but after a few weeks, it began to fade into obscurity. The search became a cold case, and the story slipped away from the headlines. 3 months later, on a foggy morning, Detective David Roos received an anonymous call. "If you're looking for Isabelle, look at the old hospital on the edge of town," said a hoarse voice, and before he could respond, the line went dead. David had heard of the hospital. It was a derelict building, once a psychiatric institution, but now abandoned and left to decay. No one went there anymore. It had become a place forgotten by time. Driven by an instinct he couldn't shake, David decided to investigate. He arrived early with a small team, the fog still thick in the air. The hospital loomed like a ghost, its broken windows and crumbling walls a testament to its former neglect. The heavy doors creaked open with a sound that shattered the eerie silence. They moved through the desolate halls, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The building seemed to draw them deeper inside, as if inviting them to explore. The atmosphere was suffocating, the air stale, and every step echoed in the vast emptiness. They descended into the basement, a place that didn't appear on the building's blueprints. Behind a barely noticeable wall, they found a hidden room. The door was blocked, but after some effort, they managed to pry it open. What they found inside was beyond comprehension. Isabelle lay on a bed in the center of the room, her body pale and weak. Her eyes were wide open, but there was no recognition in them, no sign of awareness. She was there physically, but emotionally, she seemed to be gone. What disturbed them most, however, were the stacks of photographs and documents scattered throughout the room. Files that detailed her entire life, from childhood to adulthood, were carefully arranged on the floor. There were photos of Isabelle at various stages of her life, along with strange notes, meticulous observations, and newspaper clippings about her daily routines. It was as though someone had been following her every move, obsessively and methodically. David felt a cold chill run down his spine. "Isabelle?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her and placing a hand on her shoulder. Her response wasn't immediate, but after a few seconds, her lips moved. He's here," she whispered, her voice fragile with fear. "He's watching me. He wants me." David's stomach turned. The words didn't make sense. But what happened next was even stranger. Isabelle began to stir, her eyes darting from David to the shadows in the room. "He's here," she screamed, her hands trembling. "He's coming. He wants me now." Before David could react, Isabelle sprang to her feet. Her movements were frantic and erratic. She ran to the door, but just as she reached for the handle, something unbelievable occurred. There was a deafening crack, and suddenly the room was flooded with bright, blinding light. The doors slammed shut with a violent bang, and in the chaos, David lost sight of her. When the light finally dimmed and the silence returned, Isabelle was gone. The room was empty. There were no signs of a struggle, no footsteps on the damp floor, only the photographs scattered across the ground and a strange metallic scent in the air. David knelt and glanced at the wall, his blood running cold. There, scrawled in what appeared to be blood, were the words, "You couldn't stop me, David. You'll never know what really happened." David stood frozen, bewildered. Isabelle was gone again, along with the mysterious assailant. What he had uncovered that night was just the beginning of a far darker secret, one buried deep in the shadows of the city, waiting to be discovered again. But for now, it remained a riddle, unanswered. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more thrilling mysteries like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your likes and shares help us grow and bring even more gripping tales to life. Thanks for listening.